GLC invites you to visit us on our Facebook page at facebook.com/GLCTV. Here you can stay in touch with all of the latest GLC news along with daily scriptural inspirations, current specials in our bookstore, links to our newest shows, and online media, plus articles from trusted sources. Feel free to drop us a message or a question by posting to our page. Please help us out and like our page by clicking on the thumbs up button. Don't delay, drop by the GLC Facebook page at facebook.com/GLCTV. We want to interact with you today.
Well, welcome to Monday's update. Got a lot of little things for you. First of all, I want to show you a couple of emails I got. The first one is, can you put up my picture for me? Hope you can see that. This came from Miller.
Oh,
Can you make it out?
sure can.
Shows the baby carriage with the Hamas hiding behind it, shooting, and the Israeli in front of the baby carriage. And he says, that's what the true picture is over there. Thank you, Miller. And then he also sent me this little note. I asked him had he received the book about propaganda.
Yeah. And he said, yes, Al, I did receive it, and I read it completely, all in one setting, the day it came. It's excellent. Very, very good. I wish everyone in the free world could read it. And glory to God, just as he promised, you are bearing much fruit in your old age. Go, Big Al.
I didn't intend for you to read that part. But okay, what do we
Got
got
more
going?
than you bargained for?
Yeah.
Well, as you know, things are still hot in the Middle East, and we have today's video from Lars Enerson, and so let's watch that video right now.
Shalom, I'm Lars Enerson with the Watchman International, coming to you from Israel on the border to Gaza. Today is Monday, August 4, and as we said yesterday, Israel has now begun to withdraw some troops from Gaza. But at the same time, Hamas continues to fire rockets into Israel, 70 of them yesterday, including rockets over Tel Aviv and Beersheba. So Hamas is still alive and well, and Israel has now said that the first part of the goal for the operation to destroy the tunnels leading into Israel from Gaza is now complete. So Prime Minister Netanyahu and the Security Cabinet is faced now with a decision how to proceed in this battle. There are two options basically that they have. Number one is to continue the battle into Gaza in order to defeat Hamas, to take all the weapons away from Hamas and to make sure that they will not disarm. This operation will take between 6 to 12 months, according to experts. And if Israel has lost over 60 soldiers in 3 weeks of battle here, you can imagine the cost in lives for such an operation. Yet it seems like the public in Israel is in favor of that option. The second option is that Israeli army withdraws to the border, maybe some of the troops inside Gaza, close to the border, and that there will now be a war of attrition that will continue for the foreseeable future, where Hamas will continue to fire rockets into Israel and Israel will retaliate to keep it under control. This would mean that Hamas will rearm, and within 5 years the conflict is going to begin again. And friends, at that time it might be too late to destroy Hamas. Israel has now world opinion against them in a major way, so continuing with the battle further into Gaza is going to be very, very difficult. One of the main things here is that this conflict has also shown that the United States is not behind Israel in this confrontation with Hamas. President Obama has declared that Israel cannot continue. He has said that his goal is to open up the borders around Gaza, which would be a catastrophe. It would undo everything that Israel has done so far in this campaign. So there has been a lot of efforts to do damage control when it comes to the relationship between Israel and the administration in the White House. But the reality is that the relationships are extremely strained between Israel and the United States. So it is a very, very difficult situation. One of the commentators here in Israel said yesterday that the situation now reminds us of 1967 and the ominous days before the Six-Day War. There is a third option, friends, that we need to pray for, and that is that God is going to answer the prayers of his people and help Israel to finish the job supernaturally with help from God. And that is why we call all of you to join us in a fast tomorrow, starting at sunset tonight, Monday, going into sunset Tuesday. And we have to call on heaven for help now. Israel is in a very, very serious situation. We ask you to please go to our website, thewatchman.org, and download this alert, see the prayer points that we specifically agree on now. And friends, let's call on heaven that God will step in and do wonders, that Israel will turn to God with all of their hearts and trust him and not be afraid of the nations. We ask you please to stand with us. I'm Lars Ennarsson with the Watchman International from Israel on the border to Gaza. Shalom.
Well, I just want to remind you to fast and pray for Israel tomorrow, the 9th of Av, a very important day in Jewish history. So, Rick, you have our first article today, and it's a sad article.
It is a sad article. This comes to us from Fox News. We're going to spin the globe and go to Beijing, China. A strong earthquake in southern China's Yunnan province toppled thousands of homes on Sunday, killing at least 367 people so far and injuring more than 1,800. About 12,000 homes collapsed in Ludan, a densely populated county located around 277 miles northeast of Yunnan's capital, Kunming. China's official news agency has just reported that. Well, the magnitude 6.1 quake struck at 4:30 p.m. at a depth of 6 miles, according to the U.S. Geological Survey. Its epicenter was in Longtushan Township, 14 miles southwest of the city of Zhaotong, the Ludian county seat. News reports said rescuers were still trying to reach victims in more remote towns Sunday night. The mountainous region where the quake occurred is largely agricultural, with farming and mining the top industries, and is prone to earthquakes. Relief efforts were underway with more than 2,500 troops dispatched to the disaster region Qinghao. The Red Cross Society of China allocated quilts, jackets, and tents for those made homeless by the quake, while Red Cross branches in Hong Kong, Macau, and neighboring Sichuan province also sent relief supplies. Chinese state broadcaster CCTV said the quake was the strongest to hit Yunnan in 14 years. So be praying for them.
Yeah, do pray for those dear people. Well, the latest news before we came to tape this program was a soldier was shot in Jerusalem this morning. Police are on heightened alert in Jerusalem following today's 2 attacks in the capital. Police spokesman Mickey Rosenfeld tweets. Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat said the soldier seriously injured in the Mount Scopus shooting attack is in surgery at the moment, and as far as we understand, the soldier arrived here conscious. Barkat tells Israeli and especially Jerusalem residents must remain vigilant during these tense times, and no less important, continue with their daily lives. Disrupting Israeli life is exactly what the terrorists are trying to do to us. We must not give them that reward. Security officials are conducting a manhunt for the Mount Scopus shooter and believe it is highly likely that it is a terror attack. Jerusalem Police Chief Yossi Perianti said. Perianti said the soldier was shot at close range by a man dressed in black. He fired several shots and ran toward a motorcycle or a moped nearby and escaped, Perianti said. A security guard fired at the motorcycle. Apparently, he didn't hit it. Perianti said security forces are scouring the area for the shooter, so far without results. We are treating this at the moment as a terror attack with very, very high likelihood, he says. Hebrew University's Mount Scopus campus said in a statement, the campus is safe and secure, they said. This story is developing, and we'll know more later.
Oh, my goodness. You just hate to hear the news on and on and on about people doing the craziest things just to bring terror.
That's all. That's all.
Just to bring terror. Well, this comes to us from the AP News, and we're going to look at Jerusalem once again. The Israeli military said Sunday that an Israeli soldier it previously believed had been captured by Hamas fighters in a Gaza ambush had in fact been killed in battle that day. Soldiers' purported capture Friday had helped shatter an internationally brokered ceasefire, drawn global condemnation, and triggered a military assault on the area of his disappearance in southern Gaza that left dozens of Palestinians dead and scores of homes destroyed. The military did not explain how it reached that conclusion that Hadar Golden, a 23-year-old infantry lieutenant, was killed in battle on Friday. The announcement of his death came amid signs that Israel was scaling back its 27-day-old ground operation in Gaza. In a televised address late Saturday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu suggested troops would reassess the operation after completing the demolition of Hamas's military tunnels under the Gaza-Israel border. Security officials said the tunnel mission was winding down. At the same time, Netanyahu warned that Hamas would pay an intolerable price if it continued to fire rockets at Israel and that all options remain on the table. Hamas said it would not halt its fire if Israel withdraws unilaterally. We will continue to resist until we achieve our goals, Hamas spokesman Fazwi Barhum said after Netanyahu's speech, dismissing the Israeli leader's remarks as confused. Hamas has said it will not halt hostilities until Israel and Egypt lift their blockade of Gaza imposed after Hamas overran the territory in 2007. Egypt was to have hosted indirect talks between Israel and Hamas on a sustainable ceasefire, including new border arrangements for Gaza. Well, the talks were to begin as an internationally brokered three-day truce took hold, starting on Friday. Instead, the arrangement broke down over Golden's purported capture and the ensuing violence, and Israel said it won't attend such talks, at least for the time being. Cabinet Minister Yuval Steinitz said Saturday that Israel won't send a delegation to Cairo for now, alleging Hamas has repeatedly broken ceasefire arrangements and that there was no point negotiating with the Islamic militant group. From an Israeli perspective, the advantage of a unilateral pullout or troop redeployment to the Strip's fringes is that it can do so on its own terms rather than becoming entangled in negotiations with Hamas.
However, a unilateral pullback does not address the underlying causes of cross-border tensions and raises the risk of a new flare-up of violence in the future, a prospect underlined by defiant Hamas messages on Saturday. Israel ended a previous major military operation in Gaza more than 5 years ago with a unilateral pullback. At least 1,721 Palestinians have been killed and more than 9,100 wounded, the majority civilians, since the Gaza war began July 8th, said health official Ashraf al-Qidra. Israel has lost 67 people, most of them soldiers. Large swaths of Gaza have been destroyed and some 250,000 people have been forced to flee their homes. In the area around the southern town of Rafah, where Golden purportedly had gone missing, the extent of destruction became apparent after 2 days of intense Israeli shelling that left dozens dead and more than 450 wounded. Entire apartment buildings were flattened. Rescue teams sprayed water on charred rubble as families searched the wreckage for any salvageable belongings. Nearly 24 bodies, wrapped in blood-stained white cloth, lay piled on the ground and on shelves of a cold storage room in a flower farm. The farm's owner, Ghazi Hajeri, said the health ministry asked him to keep the bodies.
Much of Israel has been exposed to close to 3,000 rocket attacks from Gaza, which have killed 3 civilians and damaged several homes. Israel has said a key goal of its Gaza operation is the demolition of tunnels Hamas has dug into Israel. Well, the military has said they are a strategic threat because Hamas has previously launched attacks from there. Several soldiers have been killed in the current round of fighting by Palestinian gunmen who popped out of tunnels near Israeli communities along the Gaza border. On Saturday, Netanyahu suggested the military will reassess after the tunnels are demolished. Once that is done, the military will prepare for continuing action in according to our security needs, he said, adding that all options remain on the table. We promise to return the quiet to Israel, and that is what we will do. We will continue to act until that goal is reached, however long it will take, and with as much force as is needed, Netanyahu said. Hamas needs to understand that it will pay an intolerable price as far as it is concerned for continuing to fire. Early Sunday, before Golden's death was announced, the Israeli defense minister and the chief military rabbi met with the soldier's family at their home in the central Israeli town of Kfar Saba. Hundreds of people had gathered outside the home, praying and showing their support. There was an outpouring of grief, and the military's announcement was made public. Now, in the past, Israel has gone to great lengths to get back captured soldiers. In 2011, it traded over 1,000 Palestinian prisoners for a soldier who had been captured by Hamas-allied militants in 2006. On Saturday, there were some signs of troop redeployment in Gaza. The Israeli military told residents of the northern Gaza town of Beit Lahia that it would be safe for them to return to their homes. The area from which Gaza militants had fired rockets at Israel in the past came under heavy tank fire during Israel's ground operation, forcing thousands to flee. Israeli troops and tanks also started a gradual pullback from the area east of the Gaza town of Khan Yunis to the border with Israel. Residents and police officers there have said this. And at the same time, Palestinian officials reported more than 150 Israeli airstrikes across Gaza, including several against mosques and one against the Hamas-linked Islamic University in Gaza City. Heavy shelling also continued along the border areas. The Israeli military said it struck dozens of targets. It said this included 5 mosques that concealed weapons and that the Islamic University was being used as a research and weapons manufacturing site for Hamas. Wow. The claims could not be independently verified, by the way. Gaza militants, meanwhile, fired about 90 rockets at Israel since midnight Saturday, according to the Israeli military. 7 were intercepted by Israeli rocket defense system, it said, while a mortar attack seriously injured a 70-year-old Israeli civilian.
Oh, my.
Propaganda, a lot of that.
Well, Hamas says that Israel made up the story on Israel's kidnapping. Can you believe that?
Really?
This comes from INN. It appears that Hamas spokespeople can't make up their mind. Did they or did they not kidnap and murder Hadir Golden? Hamas tried on Sunday to deny it was behind the kidnapping and murder of IDF's officer Hadir Golden. Hamas spokesperson Sami Abdul Zuri said that Israel fooled the world when it said that the soldier was kidnapped. It used the opportunity to violate the ceasefire and conduct a massacre in Rafah. Abu Zuri's statement contradicts comments made Friday by another Hamas spokesperson, Musa Abu Marzouk, who said that Hamas had indeed captured the soldier and was holding him hostage. Speaking to Hamas TV, Abu Marzouk named the soldier as Golden hours before Israel officially acknowledged he was missing and announcing his name. The claim that Israel violated the ceasefire was also contradicted by international reporters on the scene in Gaza. Reporters on international news channels, including Fox and CNN, said that Gaza had been relatively quiet after 8 a.m. when the ceasefire was to go into effect, and 9:30 when the IDF said Golden had been taken captive. It was then, the reporter said, that the IDF began its heavy shelling of Gaza in response to the kidnapping of Golden. Nevertheless, Abu Zuhri called on UN Chief Ban Ki-moon and the international community to condemn Israel for its savage butchery and lying to the international community by breaking the ceasefire. The IDF chief rabbinate declared Golden killed in action Saturday night based on evidence found in a Hamas terror tunnel. The soldier's funeral took place in Kfar Saba Sunday afternoon. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke Sunday with the Golden parents, the parents of the Lieutenant Golden.
Well, it's very, very sad that
It is.
this young man was killed in action.
Well, there were several others killed at the same time, but they thought he had been kidnapped.
Yeah, it just really is. Okay, well, this comes to us from Arutz Sheva. Israeli security forces have captured a senior Hamas commander in the city of Khan Yunis in the Gaza Strip, and in doing so, thwarted a creative plan to infiltrate Israel to commit a terrorist attack. The terrorist, said to be a member of an elite commando unit with Hamas's military wing, the Ezzedine al-Qassam brigades, was interrogated by the Shabak, Israel security agency, and confessed to have been sent to Malaysia to gain paragliding training, which he was to use to infiltrate into southern Israel to carry out an attack, potentially a kidnapping, in the event of an Israeli operation like the one launched 23 days ago. Well, the terrorist also told interrogators that he had coordinated anti-tank ambushes and set up sniper positions against IDF forces during Operation Protective Edge. The sniper positions were placed in the 10th floor of the Red Cross building in Khan Yunis, in line with Hamas's doctrine of using sensitive civilian buildings as military posts to make it more difficult for Israel to strike them without incurring civilian casualties. That's just butchery. The terrorist was enlisted into Hamas in 2007 and underwent basic combat training. In 2013, he was recruited to an advanced commando unit of Ezzedine al-Qassam, in which he was drilled in the use of a wide variety of weapons, including pistols, M16, AK-47 assault rifles, RPGs, heavy machine guns, and locally produced hand grenades. However, as far back as 2010, he had been enlisted into a special terrorist cell along with 10 other Hamas operatives who underwent a period of training for infiltration attacks, including parachuting courses. Then, in 2014, the cell was sent for a final training assignment in Malaysia to learn how to paraglide in preparation for a deadly infiltration into southern Israel. He claimed that the plans were so secret that he had not yet been informed even of the precise location of the attack. Now, according to the Shabak, from the details extracted during the suspect's interrogation, it is apparent that Hamas invested an enormous effort in strengthening and building up its capabilities within the context of which it built and trained a commando military force. Moreover, it was clear that Hamas had been preparing for an IDF operation in Gaza for quite some time. Preparations which included building vast tunnel networks, planning combat operations against IDF forces, and kidnappings of Israeli soldiers, the Shabak continued. Most intriguing of all, however, is that Hamas has been actively planning high-quality, unique, and significant forms of terror against Israelis, such as infiltration through paragliding, all while receiving assistance and training in other countries, in this case, Malaysia.
U.S. is guilty too. Okay, this is a very interesting article coming up. Ask a question. Why did ISIS blow up Jonah's tomb? Well, last month, members of the Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham, ISIS, the ruthless militant group currently marauding through Iraq, reportedly blew up the tomb of the prophet Yunus. The burial site of Yunus, commonly known to many Christians as the biblical figure Jonah, was located in the modern city of Mosul, which was once the biblical city of Nineveh, and was seen by many archaeologists and religious scholars as an ancient and precious religious artifact. Now, reports indicate it's little more than rubble. It would be easy to cast this latest act of culture violence as another example of ISIS attacking Christians, a group that has no doubt endured harsh and at times horrific treatment under ISIS rule. Some, such as Sam Hardy, a professor at the American University of Rome, immediately made this connection, telling the Washington Post that ISIS could potentially destroy basically pretty much anything in the Bible. But the destruction of Jonah's shrine is actually a bit more complicated than singling out one religious tradition. For starters, the Jonah story is not exclusive to Christianity. Jews also revere the prophet, as do Muslims. There's an entire book of the Quran, aptly titled Jonah, dedicated to the prophet, and the Muslim prophet Muhammad is said to have declared, "One should not say that I am better than Jonah." It is for this reason that representatives from multiple religious traditions, not just Christians, lamented the loss of the shrine. Joel Baden and Candida Moss, both professors of biblical scripture at Yale Divinity School and the University of Notre Dame, respectively, wrote in CNN's Belief blog that the explosion was an attack on both those Christians living in Iraq today and on the rich, if little-known Christian heritage of the region. Similarly, Rabbi Benjamin Belch, a Talmud professor at Yeshiva University in New York, co-authored a piece for the Wall Street Journal mourning the destruction of the shrine, saying, "The desecration of Jonah's final resting place is a blow not only to his memory, but more tragically to his message of universal concern for those of all faiths, the message that still remains the only hope for civilized mankind."
Various Muslims, including locals in Mosul, also condemned the destructions, as did Harith al-Dari, a Sunni preacher living in Lebanon, who is said to be sympathetic to militants in Iraq. Iraq's Committee of Muslim Scholars would like to underline the huge loss for the people of Mosul, who saw these blessed mosques as landscapes of the city, a part of its culture and history, Dari told the Daily Star. So, if blowing up Jonah's shrine makes pretty much everyone equally angry, why did ISIS do it? Well, the answer lies in ISIS's peculiarly orthodox and destructive theology, which, among other things, abhors all religious shrines because they're seen as a form of idolatry, or shirk, as they call it. This is par for the course for certain strains of Salafi movements like ISIS, which seek a radical return to their understanding of how the earliest Muslims, or Salaf, lived. These Salafi movements have destroyed tombs before. Some extremists attacked the tombs of Sufi Muslim leaders in 2011. And when Salafis took over Saudi Arabia's in the late 1700s and early 1800s, they demolished several tombs that belonged to the Prophet Muhammad's companions and family members. They left Muhammad's tomb alone, though. Think about that one. ISIS used this history to defend their attacks earlier this week, saying, "Our pious predecessors have done so. There is no debate on the legitimacy or demolishing or removing those graves and shrines." As Mark Movsesian points out over at First Things, one should see ISIS's destruction of the tomb of Jonah as an act principally directed at other Muslims, not Christians. What's more, ISIS's attack on multiple religions might have more wide-ranging impact than they expect, especially among their fellow Muslims. When ISIS destroyed the tomb, they reportedly forgot to remove copies of the Quran and other holy books from the building. So everyone in the area now is getting upset and possibly turning the tables on how they feel about ISIS. And that is a good thing.
Yes, it is.
Amen.
Oh, my goodness. Well, that's all the time we have for articles today, but do remember to pray for Israel, especially on Tuesday, on the 9th of Av. And
I might add, if you didn't get a copy of my book, you can buy one now at the bookstore.
yes, you can. Just
At
call Jenny and
$5.95, isn't it?
I believe that's it, $5.95, shipping and handling.
It says the $12.75 at the
pray for the
publisher.
peace of Jerusalem.
Yep.
Thank you for the book.